this week I got into Black Cloak Volume 1 from Image Comics. This is
Hell
a
yeah.
comic book that Mike's talked about in the past a bunch because he really likes it. Uh, this is written by Kelly Thompson, who currently is also working on Birds of Prey over at DC Comics. She also just wrapped up a long run on Captain Marvel, probably one of the longest runs that I can remember on a character, with art by Meredith McLaren, who Mike talked about recently about Stonehearted, the
Mm-hmm.
Kickstarter book. But she also worked with Thompson on Heart in a Box from Dark Horse a few years back. So if you like Black Cloak and you want to see those creators work together again, or I guess more of those creators working together, you can go check that out. And of course, letters by Becca Carey. So this book follows Detective Faye Essex, who is working to solve three murders in Kiros, which is the last city in the known world. But as we move forward, this case becomes more and more personal, and the threads start to reveal a sinister conspiracy behind everything that's going on. So it's a really cool mystery. There's a lot of fantasy elements. Um, I originally read this on Thompson's Substack way back then, which is kind of like the new hipster way of saying like, I was into this book before it was cool, before all
I
you
was
other
on the
nerds.
ground floor, man.
That's right. But yeah, back then when everyone launched a Substack, Thompson put this out there, and I checked it out. Funny enough, I didn't really connect with it back then, and then even
Mm.
when Image relaunched it, like published it on their own, I was like, I feel like I've checked this out already. I'll wait for the trade. And boy, am I glad that I was able to finally get like, I'm glad I gave it a second chance. I
Yes.
think the book has a really nice slow mystery. There's great pace towards the six issues. I do think it reads better altogether, at least for me. Like I felt like I was able to grasp everything and just kind of stay invested in the story. There's a little bit of humor sprinkled all throughout. There's some subtle world building all throughout. So nothing is like super in your face about this world, which I think it's something that Thompson does really well. She also writes like like dialogue in a really fun way where it's not like monotonous or it just feels like it's taking up a lot of time, a lot of space on the page.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Because you wouldn't want anything covering up this artwork. So yeah, and I really enjoyed it. The tension continues to kind of build, and then I like the parallel of how the book opens and the book kind of ends. At least this first
Hmm.
volume, because there's more coming. I think July the next issue's coming out. But yeah, and then Mike's already talked about the art as well. This artist, I also didn't kind of fully vibe, but it kind of grew on me. There's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of like very simple shapes with like these really thick outlines, which it just felt a
Yeah.
little odd to me. But then I started to kind of understand why the artist was using that. The magic looks really cool. The flashbacks are in a really nice monochromatic wash, and then even every part of the city that they visit feels very distinct, very new, just like really cool ways to explore. um and the highlight for me was the crime. When we go back and revisit it, it's in black and white, so everything feels like a more like just high tension noir. I don't know, it was a really great choice, I thought. So highly
Yeah.
recommend this. I think I'm gonna follow this on the trade just because I had such a good experience reading the trade. But I'm definitely looking forward to more from both of these creators.
Hell yeah.
So when that was coming out in Substack, was it just like one page at a time, or?
And I believe they dropped the first issue, the whole first issue, which is a long one from what
Yeah.
the trade doesn't have cutoff points. It just goes and goes. So I, I was trying to figure out like where it was stopping as I was taking notes, but then I just kind of gave up on like on like the issue numbering. I was like, I'm just gonna go through with this. So
Yeah, I was a little late to the Substack for this, just because I was testing the waters a little bit, I think. And when I eventually did go back to support like Kelly's Substack, I noticed that she does drop just like full issue. She's like, here's 60 pages of a comic, and then a month will go by, or a couple weeks or something like that'll go by. Here's another 24 issues. Here's 36, or however many ones. I think with the Substack money, she mentioned, because it was like a grant, right, to do a certain number of pages, I think, over a
Hmm.
certain amount of time. And so I think they were dropping pages as like weekly or 2 or 3 times a week renditions, and then you would just get a full issue at the end.
yeah,
So like Yeah, it was interesting because then it would allow them to do like 32 or 36 page long issues. But I think in the future they're going to be doing like the standard 22 or 24 just because it's more affordable for them to print that. So like Substack did allow them to do a little bit more, which is why that first issue I think is like 64 or 60 pages or something,
Yeah.
which is crazy. But like it's the perfect length to like get you so invested that you go, oh my god, if I don't get number 2 right now, I'm gonna fucking scream. Which is exactly how I felt after I read the first issue. So
Yeah,
yeah.
that's kind of a bummer. Like I understand like the realities of publishing and stuff, but I
Mhm.
do wish that creators could just like tell the story and take as many pages as it takes to finish an issue.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Um,
it's a bummer to see all the publishing trappings that keep coming up when we're
I
like, we
know, I
just want to
know.
enjoy good comic books.
Yeah, totally. I think we could talk about this at length, but I think like hopefully maybe one day we'll see a change in that. I don't know. That's a whole other discussion. But Brian,